Hello.
Good evening.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the May 15th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. I'm going to open this meeting as of 6:34. Charlene, could you do a roll call, please?
Richard Anthony.
Here?
Tom Robinson is excused. Laurie Millette.
Here.
Tim Moore.
Here.
Tom Alberti is excused. Dan Kane.
Here.
Bill Coy.
Here.
Victoria Healy. Here. And Steve Keach.
Here.
For purposes of tonight, I'm going to appoint Dan Kane as a voting member. And first on the agenda is going to be public hearing PB 2404, continued from March 20th and April 17th. No, we didn't. No. Okay. All right, we'll review the minutes from.
He's anxious.
Exactly. Hold it back. All right, take a minute, review the minutes from April 17th. and then
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? And public hearing, PB 2404, continued from April 17th, 2024. Completeness of an application from Albert Couillard for a residential subdivision application. The plan proposes a 9-lot residential standard subdivision of a parcel known as Parcel A, created by subdivision of Parcel A, 93 Forest Street, PB 2403. The application proposes 9 separate residential lots, each supported by its own on-site well, septic, and frontage on a new 1,792-foot roadway that will access from Newton Road, Route 108. The plan also proposes drainage and related infrastructure. The property owner of record is Haverhill Golf and Country Club. If the application is found to be complete, the planning board may immediately conduct a public hearing. So.
Hi, good evening. I'm Al Couillard, the applicant. This is Phil
Please speak
Christensen.
into the mic.
I'm Al Couillard, the applicant. This is Phil Christensen, the design engineer. Just in case you have any technical questions, I brought Jamie Goyer, who's the surveyor, and Bruce Gilday, who's the wetlands expert on the site.
Excellent. And just for the record, we had conducted a site walk of the area, at least along the staked out area where the road would be. So that was from 5 o'clock to now. So proceed.
I don't know where you want to start.
We-
Want Phil just to review the changes that were made since the last time we were here?
Please, and just for, also, with the planning board engineer or our consultant that's involved in reviewing the applicant's information that's presented to us, so that when we do open up, for public comment and such, that you can feel free to ask those technical questions if you want. Mr. Keach, feel free to opine and fill in the blanks.
I'll take your lead, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, since the last meeting, we revised the plans according to comments from Mr. Keach. He did a pretty thorough job reviewing the application. We made the revisions he had requested. We had some disagreement over a couple of things, went back and forth on it, but finally we'll do everything on all the changes on the plan he's requested. A couple of things that were, other than just minor technical things we fixed. One was the request that driveway aprons be put on the plan. And we had suggested that we really didn't know where the driveway locations would be until the houses were selected for the lots. But we are going to put the driveway locations on the plan on this next revision that we'll submit to the board.
I think that was because there's a new law in New Hampshire from New Hampshire 911 regulating more strictly house numbers for safety conditions. So they're wanting us to establish an official house number as opposed to a lot number earlier in the process as we used to. So we're going to go ahead and do that.
Also, we had 3 sheets on there of existing conditions on the site, which is, Mr. Keach asked that we remove those from the plans. We will, on the next revision, remove the existing conditions plans. That's 6, 7, and 8 sheets from the package that you have in front of you. The street lights were added. They weren't on the second revision, but we did submit an extra revision just recently, but too soon for Mr. Keach to review. But we have added street lights, which was requested by the police chief. Street light at the entrance, at the middle of the project, and at the end of the project, proposed roadway. We have also agreed, and will include on the next revision to the plan, a line on the design plans that indicates the limits of the location of septics and wells, no closer than 100 feet to the property line that borders on Country Club Lane. And we will do additional soil testing as requested by Mr. Keach that we can put on the revised plans. And I think, and along with that, we'll have a covenant in the subdivision that no septics or wells can be constructed closer than 100 feet to the lot line with Country Club Lane. That doesn't apply to the lot line towards Red Oak because that well is over 100 feet from our property, and we did locate that well. So, but we did not locate all the wells and septics on Country Club Lane, and that's the reason for the restriction. So I think with that, the next revision will have everything on it that your consultant requested that we have on the plans.
And just for I guess a question did come up during the site walk, is that these revisions, as we get them, will be uploaded to the planning board website. And there's a revision number, date that's indicated on the plans that you can reference. So for individuals that had asked that question, that's where I would direct you to. Well, once they finish, and then we'll allow for public comment or what.
So, we did change something else in the plan revisions, which there was the larger retention pond on the site has been changed from basically looks like a retaining wall with 2 holes in it for the water to flow through. We changed that to just a number of individual pipes through the berm, so we eliminated the need for a structural engineer on that retaining wall. So I think that addresses everything, unless Mr. Keach has any additional comments that he wants to address, but
Not at this time, other than one of the things that was pointed out in the staff report was the submission of the conditional use permit application.
oh, right.
And so you may want to speak to that, Mr.
Yeah, we'll have a conditional use permit filed, and at the next public hearing, that can be heard. And that's for the wetland crossing at the end of the roadway. And the construction of that cul-de-sac within the buffer zone of the wetland.
And you would also need to go to the Conservation Commission
Yes,
for that.
that gets
Okay.
filed with them as well, right?
Any questions from the board specifically about what we saw on the site walk, or concerns?
Well, I didn't go back further on the property, so.
You didn't follow the yellow brick road along the.
I thought you were going to make a path for us.
I'm going to build a road for you, is what he wants to do.
Nice path, too. Yeah, it is what it is. We can't do too much out there. Try and do as least we can when we don't have
There was a path, but I fortunately found it on the way back.
Oh,
It wasn't much of it, just the tracks from the.
Yeah, no, but it's certainly was walkable.
Yes, better late than never.
Yep.
All right, so at this time, if anyone from the public would like to come up, I would ask that you speak into that microphone and make sure you give your name and your address so that, for the record.
Aaron Tilton, One Country Club Lane. Just wanted to note on the record, I participated in the site walk, and there were some other plans on that walk that were shown during the site walk that I was not privy to prior. The website for the town and the notice that I received, the subdivision, Newton Road Estates, 24-04, 9-lot subdivision was updated on April 30th, 2024. And on the site walk, we were shown some updates from May, and that was something that I was not privy to. It was on those plans, noted wells, proposed septic systems, as well as proposed homes. So I'm not prepared at this point for this meeting tonight, but I wanted to note that for the record, number one. Number two, I was on that site plan walk. I asked specifically to show me exactly where those retention ponds, drainage areas were going to be on that lot. They were not staked for me. This was a site walk, question and answer. I know from applying for permits in town that I'm required to be within inches of anything that I want to build on a building permit. You invited the town to go on a site walk, and there was no way to show exactly where and stand in the area in relationship to my property line, to where those were going to be. Specifically, I would like on record to again ask the engineer and builder the depth of the DP, I believe it's DP2 and DP3, the ones that abut One Country Club Lane, how deep those areas, those drainage ponds are going to be, and how far exactly they're going to be from my property line. My property's DP2. So exactly how many feet from my property are they going to be? How deep are they going to be?
I thought we addressed that on the site.
Yeah, I won't speak to you, but, I just, I think you did indicate, how deep you thought that they were going to be, something like 2 feet, I thought, and then within 20 feet of the property.
Yes, the one at DP2, so I think, well, I believe the sideline offset's 25 feet. And, whoops, there it is. And for DP2, that pond is behind the building offset, so it's farther than 25 feet. And I believe it is about 2 feet deep. I don't know how actually it's designed at that depth. I don't know what the actual depth is during a rainstorm. That's in the drainage calculations, which aren't here, but I can get that information and provide it to the board and to the abutter too.
DP3, how far is that from the property line in the corner between my lot and 3 Country Club Lane?
That's about 10 feet.
10 feet. Thank you.
Just please state your name, where your residence is, into the microphone, so we can capture that.
Hi, Bob Radford, 2 Country Club Lane, Blastown, New Hampshire, 03865. So I was on the site walk. I appreciate the walk. Nice walk. One of the questions came up, we're adding these drainage, and they kind of go into easements. So what's that going to do to the current easement the water in the current easement? And for the record, who's responsible for maintaining water easements?
My understanding is that the current easements, the town has to maintain those, don't they? I mean, if they're, depending what, if they're like swirls and things like that, it's the town's responsibility to maintain the existing ones. And then anything that's new, the town would have to take acceptance of it, correct? And then at that point, going forward, would be responsible for it.
So what I heard you say was the town is responsible for maintaining the water easements. Okay, so there are currently water easements that go under Country Club Lane into the brook behind. So the town is responsible for maintaining those, is that what you're stating?
That's my understanding, yes.
If Country Club Lane is a Class 5 road.
Yes. Okay. So for the record, I moved there in 1993, and not once has the town combined on anything to the water area that it actually flows, other than do the drains that are under the road.
All right. So I mean, we did talk at the end, and like I said, I think that's an issue that, I mean, if there is, with something that's existing, then that should be brought to, you know,
I
to the
understand.
attention of the highway department or the board of selectmen.
I understand, but what we're talking about here is potentially adding to the water that's already there. Because right now, there's standing water in those easements, and they haven't been cleaned out for, is that 30 years? 31 years since I've been here? So that's pretty much all I had to say about that. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to take the walk, and thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Hi, Chris Burke, 10 Red Oak Drive. So I apologize, I was a couple minutes late, so I may have missed something. But in terms of the well for Red Oak Drive, I think what I heard was just because it's on our own property, they don't need to consider it. Maybe I misunderstood what they said. But the whole concern about the well is the well, which back on April 15th, we acknowledged was on our property, feeds 7 houses. The request was to have an analysis of what 9 houses would do to the water table, the flow, the quantity, the quality of the water feeding the 7 houses that have been there since 2002. And I feel like all the answer I got was, well, it's on your property, so we don't have to do anything with it. Is that what I heard? Was there something more provided for us to assure us?
Yeah, what,
Well, what once,
there's a couple different issues. One is the regulations require that we locate anything within 100 feet of the property line, wells or septics. We located the well that serves the folks on Red Oak, and that's more than 100 feet from our property line.
But is there any provision for the
So-
fact that it's 7
just-
houses?
just a minute.
Just let him finish,
So-
please.
That's to address a certain portion of the planning board regulations. So since that's more than 100 feet, it doesn't have to be located for purposes of the plan, and it's not, it doesn't affect where we put septics or wells on the proposed project. With respect to the wells in the area, the best source of information is McKinney Well, which, as you know, is right down the street from Red Oak. And I did talk to Mr. McKinney. He has serviced the well that serves Red Oak and also serviced wells on Country Club Lane. The well on, he states that the well, best of his memory, yields about 10 gallons a minute on the Red Oak property, and that's why that there's storage tanks there. 10 gallons a minute is not a substantial flow to serve 7 or 8 houses. And I asked him specifically about this subdivision in 9 lots, and he said, well, that shouldn't affect anything at all, 9 separate lots like that, 9 separate wells. One of the problems you have is that, you know, your well is inadequate for what its purpose is. So I'm confident that these wells will not affect your water supply, but it won't improve your water supply because you don't have enough water. You need another well at least to provide for the homes that you have there.
Well, the town approved the plan, obviously, because they provided
They-
certificates of residency for occupancy for the
They
seven residents that bought houses and pay on the average $12,000 a year in tax. My question would be, would the town be prepared to require some sort of bond? So that if there is negative impact to our properties, that either we get a new well drilled or we get the town water routed to our street. I'm not confident that there's no impact.
Well, Skichi, is that something you want to speak to a little bit?
The question of providing a bond in a situation like that is not permitted under state law. They can require a bond for construction, like the town would customarily require a surety be provided to ensure public improvements. Future public improvements are finished. But to buy a bond from the essence of an insurance policy for another party in this particular instance, there is no provision under New Hampshire statute or common law to permit that.
Can I just ask, just though, I mean, that's one issue, but specifically to the question of whether or not, you know, it's accurate that there's not going to be any impact by having 9 wells, you know, impacting the water source, I guess, for that one well. I mean, it sounds like what was just said is that it's a capacity issue for your well producing, as opposed to
There's
a resource
the
question.
capacity issue that we deal with. I mean, as you know, somebody who's been stuck for 20 years being the neighborhood treasurer that services that thing, I have to babysit it. I have to go remind people that they have to shut their sprinklers off, or, you know, all this type of stuff. I've been doing that for 20 years. What I'm concerned about is the volume of water in the ground. It's not endless. And now you want to more than double the demand on the source of that well. And nobody has, you know, we talked about this a month ago. I thought there was going to be some analysis provided. I mean, and the statute may say that it only needs to be 100 feet. And that might be good for normal single house consumption. But this is 7 houses that are feeding off that one well. And to say, you know, should, I mean,
Tim, what's the threshold for doing a hydrological stress test? You know, for like a,
I don't know exactly. For single wells, there is none. If it were a carbon well for the 9 houses, then the state gets involved and there is some load testing, but I don't know. You know, I don't know what that limit is. Steve, do you?
This is precisely why we have soil-based lot sizing calculations, right? Your table 1A. Those calculations or requirements that relate to lot sizing based on soil type measure the adequacy of a piece of land based on high-intensity soil survey mapping to measure recharge to the aquifer and the ability to dispose of wastewater. If you have a site that is hard pan, your lot's going to be bigger than a lot that is very sandy and facilitates recharge. So it's budget water budget cycle driven. In this case, each of the 9 proposed lots will have to meet or exceed those minimum requirements. And many years, if not decades ago, the town had the foresight and intelligence to adopt that standard. And I think it has served the town well. Red Oak, I'm not familiar with. It sounds like you have a community water system.
we do.
Yeah. And unlike, as Tim correctly stated, one house, one well is not regulated in the same way by the Department of Environmental Services as a community water system is. I don't know anything about Red Oak, about their water system, but it could very well be, 2002 seems like yesterday, but it wasn't, that the regulatory framework at the state level may have changed in the ensuing 22 years. 10 gallons a day would yield will work. It has worked, but there's not an abundance. And I think that's consistent with what the testimony you've just heard from the gentleman.
Right. Well, that 10 gallons is peak.
Right.
I've seen it as low as 6.
Yeah, it's variable, and
so
that's why you have the atmospheric storage.
So if the excess demand pushes it, if the excess demand reduces the supply so that we go from 10 down to 6, that's going to have a serious negative impact on seven existing residences.
One thing that needs to be understood is that by all and for both directions, applicant as well as town, as well as landowners, is that land use law, land use regulation in New Hampshire is, at the municipal level, is derived from authority granted by legislature. They grant authority to do a great deal, but they reserve for the state agencies all things water. The Department of Environmental Services on a single-family well has a 75-foot protective well radius requirement within which you can't put a wastewater disposal system. And the Water Well Board, the wells are advanced and tested by a licensed water company installer, and they have to demonstrate generally a yield of 2 gallons a minute at the time they're installed in order for that source to be deemed adequate to serve a single-family home with up to 4 bedrooms. In the case of a community system, such as yours, the requirements have, over the last relevant 22 years, have gotten more stringent. I'm not prepared to tell you what every difference is right now, but they have gotten. The gentleman that services your well certainly could. But as a measure of adequacy, the system that serves your neighborhood today may or may not, at the time it was approved, meet current standards. Mr. Christensen talked about maybe needing another well. Maybe. I mean, that's one solution. But atmospheric storage, I don't know what kind of atmospheric storage you have in your neighborhood, if any, or if it's just a demand-based system.
I'm not sure what you mean by atmospheric storage. We have 2 1,500-gallon tanks.
That's the atmospheric
Okay.
storage, right? Right. And the way that works, sir, is that your well can deliver water 24 hours a day. Demand.
No, I understand that. I well understand how the system works. My point is that we've not really been given any analysis of what the impact of these 9 houses to our well is. And it's a wonderful suggestion that we can add a second well, but why should our homeowners association have to pay for a second well to allow this project to come in? When we've been there, we've been paying taxes for 20 years. We've got a system that works. We don't love it, but it works. And to your point, I don't know the legalities of when a bond is allowed or when the bond is required. But if I recall correctly, when I moved into Red Oak Drive, they had a bond from the developer before he could leave the project to make sure that he met all his promises about what he was going to do for the side of the roads and the infrastructure. Exactly.
So we can bond, but we can require. Now, the legislature changed that a little bit effective October 3rd, 2023 was the effective date of the change of RSA 67436 that affects the timing. And if you've seen my report, I speak to that in one of the comments in there. But the statute does not enable a bond as an insurance policy for the benefit of a third party. They can't,
But it's not a benefit. I mean, it's,
well, it's an insurance policy, right?
But-
If something happens,
so what does a well cost? What does an individual?
I guess I'd leave it, I appreciate, the clarification, but if it doesn't allow for that, then, I
Wait,
guess.
well, okay, so let me ask the town, what is our recourse?
Well, I don't know what your recourse is, but I think the question you're asking is two different things. You have one in which you're talking about the capacity that your well is drawing water on. And that looks like for,
I thought it clearly stated that, it works. We don't love it because we know the restrictions. You get 7 houses that are drawing at whatever rate, that are being supplied by 10 gallons a minute. So you got to do the math. The pumps run
Yes.
24/7. We just paid in January, we ended up having to pay like $14,000 to replace pumps because the pumps run 24 hours a day. My point is, what does it cost on average? And I don't know, I'm going to throw a number out here, to drill a well. $5,000 for a household well? 7,000?
a little more.
Okay.
I just drilled one down 605 feet and it cost me $17,000.
Okay. So now, so to drill a well, if we were to double our system, because now, there's an impact to what supplies our system. So we have to double it up and duplicate our system. All right, even if we said we're drilling one well, but then we had to put a house, a well house, additional storage tanks, additional pumps, we're looking at well over $50,000 expense to our neighborhood if something happens. Is the town prepared to reimburse us? Give us a tax abatement?
I get, that's what I mean when I see that there are two different questions. One, you're saying that right now you have a rate. It sounds like you have a rate capacity type issue where.
Right, but what feeds that system feeds it at what we've determined to be approximately 10 gallons per minute.
That's the rate that you're drawing off.
That's the rate that that we're able to draw from it. If these 9 houses reduce the capacity of the source well, that there's only enough water there for our well to draw 6 gallons a minute, then we would run out of water. And if the solution to that is to drill a second well elsewhere in the neighborhood, then there's a cost to drill that second well.
Yeah, I think you're conflating two.
No, I don't think I am.
One sec. Tim, you have something to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's the same aquifer, but within that aquifer, there can be multiple streams. So your well taps into one of those. There's no guarantee that any of the 9 wells would tap into that same stream.
And there's no guarantee that it won't.
No guarantee that it won't. That's true.
And that's
But
why
it's not
I'm here, is
likely.
to make sure the town understands that there are 7
Can you please
houses,
let
7
him
families.
finish and then, just what his thought, please.
Okay, I thought he was finished. I apologize.
Yeah, I was. I'm just pointing out there's no guarantee that these 9 new wells will tap into the exact same water source that Red Oaks well does. No guarantee that it won't, no guarantee that it will.
Can I ask just a dumb question? How would we know one way or the other? Would a hydrological analysis kind of?
Even with that, you wouldn't.
I suspect, yes. Yeah.
Again, it comes back to the basis of your zoning. With soil-based lot sizing, any parcel that's created in the town of Plastow should have sufficient land area to enable groundwater recharge at a pace that is equal to or greater than what's drawn from a household well. And that's why, you'll notice the poorer the land, the larger the lots, right? And Um, That standard is used a lot of locations, very prevalent here in Rockingham County. And it served many municipalities well. I have no reason to suspect that there's going to be any nexus between 1 or 9 lots and the Red Oak community system. You know, I can understand the concern, and I don't want to have anybody who happens to be listening think that I'm not, concerned, but our body of land use ordinances and regulations at the town level, when this group, the applicant, his consultants, satisfy those requirements, those are your requirements that are a matter of law. And there's a second level here that hasn't been spoken. Any lot that's created in the state of New Hampshire, in addition to any local approval that may be granted by municipal planning board, is also subject to the Department of Environmental Services subdivision approval. And their standards will come into play, and they involve water. I will tell you that their standards are less restrictive than the town of Plastows because of your soil-based lot sizing. There's a person in this room who is more familiar with soil-based lot sizing and its derivation than I am, and that's Bruce Gilday, a soil scientist that's here tonight, if you would like him to speak to you. I think he could school all of us, to be perfectly honest with you.
Please.
Be my guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Keach. My name is Bruce Gilday. I'm with BAG Land Consultants out of Concord, New Hampshire. I'm a certified soil scientist, certified wetland scientist, and I've been in business for 35 years. Your engineer, Mr. Keach, is exactly right. It was 1987 that they adopted soil mapping, high-intensity soil mapping for just such this situation, residential lot sizing, to determine how big lots should be on a piece of land, depending on what type of texture, what type of restrictive features, what type of slope, what type of parent material. Once you have that done and mapped by a soil scientist, you do calculations. And the calculations, once again, when the map came out in 1987, they came out and followed these soil-based lot sizing calculations in about 1990. They were adopted, and a lot of the towns in Rockingham County really picked up on this. What I liked about it was there was a thing that was happening, and not to go off on a tangent, that nobody, arbitrarily, towns without this soil-based lot sizing were saying 1 acre lots in this zone, 3 acre lots out here, and things, and it got into a zoning, what do they call it? Snob zoning. Chester had a big case that was over the state and everything. What I like about it is it works. The soil-based lot sizing has proven itself. You can have the soil-based determine that you need 90,000 square feet, like a little over 2 acres on your land. In that 2 acres, you can have comfortably a house, a foundation, a garage, a driveway, a lawn, but more importantly, you can have your septic system and your whole well radius, your individual home well radius on the same lot. It's all contained in there. And what I also like over 35 years, you don't hear stories where somebody's well on the lot that they had contaminated their own, their leach field contaminated their own well. You don't hear it. It's a rampant case. It's a beautiful thing that happens the way that the effluent is cleaned in the soil and everything. And at the same time, the wells, you don't hear stories in the newspaper rampantly saying that because this person put a well right next to me, my well is drawn down. Mother Nature's a beautiful thing. It replenishes that groundwater that we have, that Tim was talking about, the aquifer where the streams are running underneath there. And I could ask you, at 605 feet, do you know what your gallon per minute turned out to be?
25.
It's how far you go. It's how far the original well was dug and what the capacity. And if they stopped too early, then they didn't hit that one stream that really provided. It's safe. soil-based lot sizing, and I don't know if anybody has any questions on the soil mapping, but
Do have a couple of questions. I didn't catch your address.
it's 43 Rockingham Street, Concord, New Hampshire. I have a business card I'll give you.
Okay. So what brought you to our meeting tonight? Do you represent somebody here?
I am
Do you represent one of the parties?
a certified soil scientist. I mapped all the soils on this property.
Right, but you just happen to be in the.
I flagged the wetlands. I'm in
Okay.
communication with my client all the time. about-
Who's your client?
It's Al Couliard.
Okay, thank you. Do we have that on the record?
I'm hired by the client, the applicant, the landowner, whoever, to apply for a dredge and fill permit. I was here to answer any questions about dredge and fill, but I do have an expertise in soils.
That's much appreciated, but let me also ask a question, because we keep hearing about the lot-based
Soil-based lot sizing.
soil-based lot sizing. The lots on Red Oak don't meet those requirements because we have the common well. The average property on Red Oak Drive has a 1/3 acre to a less than a half acre size. Because they did the community well.
Right. And
So
they
how
have
does
a larger
that-
radius to protect your
So how do-
community well than a normal residential lot would have a smaller radius.
But, so that radius to me would sound like it would now expand off of the property where it is.
On the residential lot?
The common well right now exists on the common land. I think it was estimated to be 160 feet from the property line.
It's a cluster development.
Okay.
So this is his well.
Okay.
This is my property line. It's 195 feet from the property line.
So
And
that's what
then-
you said. It's over 100, so it doesn't.
Your surveyor told me it was 160. What's that? Yeah, you did. When I was walking down the street, I stopped, I had a conversation with you.
Your well is right next to the stream. About 25 feet from the stream. Okay. Stream's flowing pretty good? Has been for the past
It
year?
is now. What about in August?
I like 2022, 2023 August, I'll tell you, it was pretty wet.
So, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna, I don't think I'm gonna get resolution to my concern here.
Okay, I'll ask a question. It's just, given the size of the lots right now that are being proposed, all right, and based on what you're saying that, doing the soil-based, analysis.
Soil-based lot sizing, yes?
Yeah, so, those lots then would support 9 wells.
They're
based on those
oversized.
calculations.
The soils are really good out here.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, the season high water table's down, the water table's down, there's no ledge that's causing it to restrict too much.
Mhm.
So I found the soils to be very, very good out there.
Right, so in a sense, that's your concern.
Well, yeah, so I guess in closing, for the record, my request would be for this board to consider, that the potential negative impact on 7 residences that have been in existence for over 20 years.
Right, noted. Is there anyone else that would like to, opportunity for public comment?
Scott Hebert, 7 Country Club Lane. I'm just going to bring up another resident brought up last meeting. Did anybody get animal, whatever, they were talking about marble salamanders being out there? Did anybody follow up on that?
I can talk about that too, Mr. Chair.
Eileen?
Part of the dredge and fill is that we have to talk to the different other state agencies. And the first thing we like to do when we're doing wetlands as a wetland scientist is contact the Natural Heritage Bureau. At that bureau, they have the database that you're talking about. And the database is a listing of any rare, threatened, or endangered species that is in close vicinity or on your property. Initially, we did one for this, and we did it in April of 2023, and it came back as 1 species. It's a quite common species, Blanding's turtle. It's in the vicinity. I'd say it's a quarter mile from this project. There are no hits of these species out here. Another thing, we're in the month of April and May, prime vernal pool. We want to check that out. So we had a qualified biologist, which is something that the Fish and Game is recommending, that you get somebody who's qualified in biology to go out, look for that Blanding's turtle, look for any other species, look for vernal pools. And I hired Cheryl Bentley, very respected at the Fish and Game, and she came out and she wrote a report, and we're in consultation, but there's no further recommendations from the Fish and Game. They don't see, because of the fact that Phil has done a great job in reducing and avoiding the wetland impacts. So there was no marble salamander.
A question, with the vernal, did you identify, the vernal pools, that's a technical distinction, right? I mean, that's just not just a wetland, that's a seasonal type wetland in which you would have breedings of salamanders and other types of animals and such.
Yeah.
Right. Did you identify vernal pools?
There were no vernal pools on this project. A qualified biologist and myself, when I was flagging the wetlands, I would make a note to come back and look at those areas if it's out of season when I was doing the flagging. And under suspicion that they could be potential vernal pools is what I would do. I would not let that go, because it can be the biggest thing for a cease and desist sometimes when it crops up after the fact that, oh, I got salamanders.
Oh, because the neighbor did say he saw him out there. That's why I'm asking. And another question is, so these wetlands, you got these 9 homes in, irrigation systems going. Now, when that water drains down, does that impact the size of the wetland, or does the wetland stay? Can it get bigger? Can it get smaller? I'm not sure how that works.
The biggest thing that we worry about, and a project this size has to have an AOT, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, an alteration of terrain disturbs over 100,000 square feet, and their requirement is that you cannot contribute through your construction and impervious surfaces you're creating a larger discharge than what's originally happening on the land. So what you create, you got to keep and contain. That's why the engineer designs detention basins to let that water set for a little bit, or retention basins and let it sit for a longer period of time. This project will not contribute any large water coming through there. What we also worry about in the dredge and fill part, where we're going for a standard dredge and fill permit, is what type is going to affect on the quality of the water. Is it going to be a high sensitive wetland? This one is not. This one is a palustrian, forested, seasonally saturated wetland. It's very common throughout Rockingham County. We were at 2,000, and Phil pulled it back, the cul-de-sac back, and we're now only at 1,000. We have to use a large standard dredge and fill permit because it's over 4 lots. That's just their requirement. But there'll be no mitigation, and the water quality will not be affected by this project.
So it wouldn't impact the size of the wetlands if they ran sprinkler systems and all that stuff that's draining down? No.
No, there's a stabilization, and particularly with these soils that I've seen out there, a high saturate. This soil drains really well. I would think it probably perks. Lavelle did the test bed?
6 to 8.
6 to 8 minutes, which is a very good perk. It's not excessively drained, but it's well-drained soils that are out here, and there's no restrictions, like I said. So I don't think there would be an increase in the wetland size due to the sprinklers.
But it potentially could?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, not from the sprinklers. It would not increase the boundary.
Like the runoff?
Or
and
the
all
limits.
that?
Like, you're asking if I would come back after this was built 5 years from now, and I would map larger wetland pocket areas?
No, but could it get bigger? That's the question I'm asking.
I have not seen that in finished products.
Right, Tim,
All right.
Tim,
So
you have a question.
Yeah, you want to answer yes or no, sorry.
I think Tim Moore has a question.
Yeah.
Just the wetlands are determined by biology and by soil type. So you might go by an area today that has 200 feet of standing water, 200 square feet. You might go by next week after it's drained. There might only be 50 square feet of standing water, but the wetlands area itself would still be that 200 or 200 plus square feet. So standing water is a good indication that it might be wetlands, but even that's not necessarily true. If it's really well-drained soil and the soils don't support wetlands, then so an indication, but size of standing water isn't a measure of what the size of the wetland would be.
So if there is standing water, the drainage isn't as good as they're saying it is, or the soil isn't as good as it, I'm just,
If there's standing water, usually there's a little restriction or something perching the water table up right underneath. We have large, excessively well-drained soils, and then we have some soils that are moderately to somewhat poorly drained, and they have at 18 to 26 inches a hard pan, which Engineer Steve said it's actually a restrictive feature that the water goes down, hits that, and then it just can't go any further. Shallow to ledge, another thing for that. But your concern is that these wetlands are going to get bigger and bigger.
yeah, that's it.
Even off the property. The only time I usually see that is when you're driving the interstate and they put up any kind of a road or high. It creates a dam where the water always used to come through. It's being pushed back and everything. So you'll see, even in median strips, you'll see the water increasing because it's kind of trapped in there. So highways make big dams.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a comment or question? Right.
Sebastian Markowitz, 12 Red Oak Drive. That's your opinion, right?
My opinion, yes.
Yeah. What you just said here for the last 5 minutes.
About soils, yes.
Are you gonna report that on a paper so we have a?
I did a
Or
map.
is it just your opinion?
No, I stamped a plan that showed the soils that are out here. And
That's not what I asked.
Well,
That's
let me
my
just
professional opinion, Mr. Chair.
One second. I don't want the questioning to be adversarial. And so in this sense, this is his professional opinion, and he's actually certifying something correctly, stamping
correct.
and attesting to it. So, that's, I think that's a correct framing of.
But my question is it going to be in a report somewhere? His professional opinion.
There's a record here.
We could provide a copy of his attestation with his certification on it, I believe. Yes.
Thank you.
You want my business card, sir?
No, I'm good. My friend have it. Oh, you have it?
Before you make a comment, I just have just a question. I got a sense, let's say on the site walk, that some of the concerns, that if there is, questions of water, because I believe there's some easements that weren't necessarily noted on the plans beforehand that were going to be updated. So there's a concern that there is water flowing and things like that. And I think a concern might have been that whatever's going to be happening, is that going to aggravate, like is someone going to end up with water in their backyard or something to that effect? I mean, whether or not that's, warranted or not, it's a concern that I think that was out there, at least that I understood. That, if there's going to put a road through, does that mean that someone's going to have water coming in their backyard and such like that?
There's always that concern with the abutters. Their basements could get potentially flooded. I don't see it. I don't read it in the papers. I rarely see wells doing damage to other wells in the neighborhood of the town.
Well, not even the wells, just sort of like the, alteration of the terrain and stuff like that. I mean,
So at the last meeting,
No, you just gotta come up to the mic.
At the last meeting, Mr. Christensen went page by page through this plan and talked about the percentage of water that's running off now and the percentage of water that's running off when the project is completed. And in every instance, it's reduced by different percentages. Just that should put people's mind at ease. They mentioned it earlier, we can't create more runoff after we're done than was there before when we started. That's a law, and that's what Mr. Christensen spent months working on to make sure that we comply with that law.
That's what I'm just looking to have reiterated, to speak to that.
There's I saw a hydrology report that did exactly that.
Yes.
Yeah, didn't I?
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
250 pages.
Yes, yes.
And unfortunately, I had to read it.
I did
Slept
too,
well.
but you probably did a better job than I did. But
I don't know.
I did read it.
Did you make it to the end?
I did.
Okay, so you did good.
But I think that laid out exactly what the drainage was now and what it was projected to be. And there's a good, the first couple of pages are a good summary of all the areas that you guys looked at, I believe,
Yeah, tried to do that.
Yeah, no, it was within the first 5 or 6 pages, so you don't have to read all 250.
And I think, I don't want to ask a question I know the answer to, but I think Mr. Keach confers with Mr. Christensen on those numbers that
I do.
there's going to be less percentage. So we're looking at 50 years experience.
No, I just think it's important to say
We're
that.
looking at a lot of experience in the room with these two engineers.
40.
They both have the same opinion. I just wanted to point that out.
I think that's important to be said out loud, given the fact that's, I think that's an ambient concern.
I mean, the analysis follows the algorithm. It follows our standards here in Plastow. It follows the algorithm that the DES Alteration of Terrain Bureau will require. But the part of it that can't be lost is that once, assuming this project is approved and it moves to construction, it's got to be built right? I mean, we can say that the plans are fine, but the construction has also got to be fine.
Can you speak to that for a second? Let's say it moves towards, construction, and at each stage of the construction, you're, as our consultant, you have representation that's going to be
Jeff.
on site.
Yeah.
Right.
And, that's a really important piece of this because, we can look at plans all night and make assurances all night. But if the construction doesn't follow what you folks approve and what Mr. Christensen designs and what I nod my head to, then the whole thing goes sideways, right? So that's why, in recent years, we've had Jeff Quirk, who lives right over there, go and make sure that the construction occurs correctly. And I would anticipate him doing the same here. But, a lot of times when you hear testimony from professionals, whether it be Mr. Christensen or Mr. Gilday, myself, whomever, we're talking about it from a standpoint of analysis and design. It's the finished product that really matters, right? And so there's another part of it that after the proceedings in this room may end and construction commences, that the town of Plastow has a construction engineer inspect the work to make sure that it is in fact built as Mr. Christensen designed it and as this board approved it. And that may be the most important part of this, to your point, sir, in the back, and the gentleman, over here, that have spoken tonight about the stormwater piece. The gentleman that spoke about the one thing I would add about what was missed in the discussion is our zoning ordinance here in Plastow has a 100-foot buffer requirement from wetlands. So no physical work outside of what may be approved by conditional use permit in a limited basis here by the board at some future date will occur within 100 feet of wetland. I think that's a very important piece of this. I'm sorry, I went on.
No, excellent.
Did I answer your question?
You did,
All
yes.
right.
Well, I thought it was
think
important
we
just to
would,
say that,
yeah.
we have an analysis part here.
Yeah.
All right, where we have people saying certain things, but then there's the on-site monitoring of the implementation of that plan. That's important to note. Did you want to say something additional?
Real quickly, Aaron Tilton, One Country Club Lane. I want to make sure I heard correctly since I last spoke. There's a buffer zone between the well and the septic system from the country club property line that is going to be put into place?
Yes, right. The requirement is going to put a line on our plan that's 100 feet from your property line. It says we can't put wells or septic systems any closer than 100 feet to your property.
I was told by Mr. Anthony that the site plans, the updated ones, would be available to review at this meeting today. I don't believe the proposed well on the first lot of this estate is 100 feet. Especially where I was told that the first,
Yeah, the well on the first lot is 100 feet from your lot line. There's a 75-foot radius around the well, which is required. And if you look up, you can see on the screen up there. There's a well right there. And see
right
that
next to the,
See the circle around it?
Yep.
That's 75 feet, and then there's a 25-foot line here. So the well is more than 100 feet from your property line.
that's 122 going up the side, right, where it says DP3, that's 122 feet.
I think if there's a dimension on that, that's just a dimension on the pipe. Not the line.
That's not the lot line there?
That's the lot line, but the dimension you're reading is the length of the pipe, I believe.
What is the lot line dimension?
122.44.
Is it?
Yep.
So how could that possibly be 100 feet away that well? That's the.
It is.
Thank you.
What's that lot line?
This is 122.44,
To where?
from here to here.
No.
So, Robert Radford, 2 Country Club Lane. I have 2 comments. One. for everybody that went
122,
out
what's
there.
this?
I had a tick on me, so be careful.
93.
They were running around.
Yeah, all right.
The second comment to Mr. Keach. So when you looked at the water analysis, Mr. Keach, looks like
Yep.
you're doing something else.
No, I'm listening to you.
Okay, good.
I didn't do 2
When you
things
did
at
the water
once, I
analysis,
never
did you just read through the report, or do you actually have HydroCAD?
I have HydroCAD. I've
Okay.
used HydroCAD since before it was, I've been doing drainage calculations longer than HydroCAD.
Cool. That's pretty accurate.
Accurate, but not precise, because the model that it's based on is the old Soil Conservation Service TR20, TR55 model. It's empirical. It's the best product that is on the street, but don't believe any number to the right of the decimal point ever.
Okay. I just wanted to know. Thanks.
Good in the tolerances.
Yeah. Cool.
And, the numbers are usually with, first of all, we had to do it for design storms of, 10-year return frequency, 25. Those are statistical events. They're not real events. So the authors are protected,
I'm glad to
They
know that.
follow the methodology.
Good. I'm glad to know you didn't just, okay, yeah, this looks
I
good.
put it on the postage scale to make sure it weighed enough, right? All right, I get it.
All right, thanks.
Anyone else? All right. Any questions from the board?
We're going to continue it anyways, right?
I think we are. Let's make sure. All right. So in terms of housekeeping here then, what are we looking at doing?
Continuing.
All right.
Thursday at 11.
So draft motion.
Yeah, so we're going to continue it.
All right,
Or you
so
could just continue on consensus if you'd like. That's the power of your seat.
going to exercise that power then. I think we'll continue Public hearing 2404 to June 19th, 2024, at 6:30 PM. There will be no additional written notification provided. What's that?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's Juneteenth.
Wow, that's one you.
All right.
I know, it's like, there's certain ones that it's not like July 4th that's in your mind.
So no meeting?
I don't know.
If we have to update this, do we just issue another public announcement? to the effect, or-
Well, we
Yes.
have to have the
Continue.
conversation anyway of when we want to have a meeting, or if we just want to have one meeting that month. So we could have a conversation now and state on the record that we will be having 2 meetings in June. Just pick a new date, the second one.
Yeah, you could do it like the Wednesday after or something like that, which would be 26th.
All right. So we're saying then we want to do the 26th, then continue it to the 26th?
I don't know if it's open for everyone else.
Fine.
I'm fine with the 26th.
I'm fine with the 26th.
Tim?
Yeah, I think that'll be all right.
All right, then why don't we do that? So we'll continue it to June 26th, 6:30 PM? Yes. Or
We're
would
also
you,
having a meeting on the 12th.
No, it would be the first Wednesday of June, whatever date that is. So it'd be like this.
It's usually the first and third Wednesday of every month. Our first meeting is a working meeting, which is just on the 10th.
Publicly.
It's
We're just
under
not- we're
super
just-
special circumstances.
Yeah.
But we have some housing matters to wrap up before the end of the fiscal year. That's my time to shine.
Does it always have to be on a Wednesday? It can't be on a Tuesday or Thursday, like the 18th or the 20th?
no, but is there burning, is it
But
problematic?
Also, the 65-day
Are we coming up against
clock
that?
runs out on the 22nd.
That's right.
So we could do it on the 12th if everyone is around.
Yeah, that's the other option.
12th.
I'm not around.
You're not
I
around?
won't be here on the 12th. That's the RPC annual meeting.
But I'm an alternate.
So it's been established that there's no meeting on the 19th?
Lori,
What?
are you around for the 12th then?
12th, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen.
I don't think it's a New
Karen-
Hampshire
Yeah, if it's a federal, that means town hall would be closed.
We can do the 12th then. Is that fine?
Works for me.
I don't even know what
We
it
have
is.
2 absences for the 12th. We'll still have a
Because-
quorum.
Yeah, I still have a quorum. I'm not.
Karen should probably be back by
And then
then.
Tom might be around by then.
I don't think Tom's here either, right?
Yeah, Tom won't be here.
Yeah. So it'll just be me and Tom.
June 12th? We should have a quorum, right?
A quorum is 3,
Yeah.
so we should have at least 3.
All right. June 12th, okay?
That's great, thank you. Appreciate it.
So June 12th, 6:30 PM. Will be continued.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good grief.
Oh, just when are you going to conservation?
I believe he planned on making all the filings tomorrow. That's why I had to come to a meeting tonight, so he can tell you that himself. But he left.
Well,
By the 12th, we'll have.
Tim is actually the secretary for
Yeah.
the Conservation Commission.
Concom meets first Thursday of the month. So, I guess that would be, what, June 6th?
Yeah.
We'll make sure we get you guys right away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You look like you're really enjoying that, Al. Take care. Al, I'll see you up next Thursday at Dee's office. Yep. I bet you will. Take care. All right, take care.
Do you want to zoom in?
if I can drink wine.
We still have an ongoing meeting.
No.
Good night.
So,
On to the next.
on to the next one here. It's going to be PB 2404, the completeness of an application by Hans Bicycles and Ryan Burnham for a special event permit to allow a one-time bicycle swap event on June 2nd, 2024. The property is located at 4 Wilder Drive, tax map 32, lot 33, in the IND2 zoning district. The property owner of record of the business is Westville Venture Partners LLC, and the unit is part of the Fieldstone Condo Association. If the application is found to be complete, the planning board may immediately conduct the public hearing. We have a draft motion for it being complete.
Is anybody here for it?
We don't we have to take it, we accept it as complete and then do a public hearing, right?
Yeah, but I didn't know if anyone was here.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion to accept it as complete?
Do you have anything to accept as complete? Trying to just go through this. Look. Right.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so
I'll make them. I have the motion here.
Yep.
I move to accept the application for a special event permit, specifically a bicycle swap proposed by Ryan Burnham, 4 Wilder Drive, Unit 10, to be held on June 2nd, 2024, and is noted in the legal notice for PB 24-05 is complete.
All right, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. Is there anyone to speak on the application? Please come up to the microphone, name and your address. Let us know what's going on.
My name is Ryan Burnham. My address is 4 Wilder Drive, right here in Plastow. So is it approved? That's my only question.
Well, let's just ask you some questions and stuff.
Sure.
I mean, just what is it that you're doing?
It's a bicycle swap.
Okay.
So basically taking used bicycles and selling them. Everybody can come, buy bike parts, buy used bikes, get some bike service if you need it. My business is I build custom bicycle frames and service bicycles.
How many people do you think this would attract?
Maybe
Do you have any
100
idea?
throughout the day. You know, not like one big swarm
Right,
of 100
okay.
people, but people trickling in, maybe 100, maybe a little bit more.
And
They're
spread
not
it out?
usually a huge thing.
How many hours is it spread out over?
9 to 4.
So 9 to 4, in and out.
Shouldn't be too crazy.
No, just trying to do quick numbers. As long as you don't get 100 all at once, you get 20 here, 20 there. It's plus I would imagine some of them they're driving together.
Any questions from the board or?
And what?
No.
Seemed fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
How about traffic? How are we gonna handle traffic if there's overflow parking or anything like that?
There's a lot of parking there.
Okay.
So I don't really foresee much of an issue there.
All right.
It's a big industrial area and nobody's there on Sundays. So
Question. Yes.
Have you done this swap before?
I have not. I have put on other bike swaps at other shops, but I've not done it here at my own yet. Hoping for a good turnout.
Yep. And I noticed the police and the fire department signed off on it as well.
Right.
Which is 2 big ones.
Yeah, they had some other concerns that I had to address.
Yep. We saw that.
Went through okay.
It's just a question. Is this something that you contemplate doing annually or something like that? Or is this just sort of a one-time thing?
Maybe doing it annually, but right now it's just a one-time thing. Trying to raise awareness that I'm there.
Okay.
There's no bike shop or anything in the area. Mostly what I focus on is service, but there's no place to get that done in the area. So I just kind of want to bring some awareness and help people get on bikes.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a bike business there.
I took it over for a gentleman that had been there for quite a while, but he just did custom bike manufacturing, which is my biggest thing. So.
Okay. We're good?
Right.
All right. I move to approve the application for special event permit, specifically a bicycle swap proposed by Ryan Burnham for Wilder Drive, Unit 10, to be held on June 2nd, 2024. And as noted in the legal notice for PB 24-05 is complete with the following conditions. The approval is for the noted dates only. Any additional events will require the amendment of the site plan.
I have a second. I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Good luck.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Next on the agenda, PB 2406, the completeness of an application from 125 Development New Hampshire Corp. For review of the landscaping proposed on 2 residential parcels located within the town of Plastow, related to a larger project located in the Industrial Commercial District in Newton, New Hampshire, known as Phase 5 of the Southern New Hampshire Industrial Park. Other than the landscaping, there are no proposed development in the town of Plastow. The parcel is in Newton, New Hampshire. It's located on Puzzle Lane. The 2 Plastow parcels are known as Greenfield, abutting tax map 63, lot 82, and Ridgewood Road rear, tax map 71, lot 19, both in the LDR zoning district. The applicant is the property owner of the Plastow parcels. If the applicant is found to be complete, the planning board may immediately conduct a public hearing. Take a minute, take a look at this.
All right. I'll make that motion. Okay. I move to accept the application for Phase 5 construction of the Southern New Hampshire Industrial Park located in Newton, New Hampshire, including a landscape buffer but no structures or parcels located in Plastow as noted in legal notice for Planning Board Matter 24-06 is complete. The Plastow properties include Greenfield abutting, tax map 63, lot 82, and Ridgewood Road rear, tax map 71, lot 19.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. All right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Barry Geyer. I'm with Jones Beach Engineers here for the applicant. Tonight with me is Tom Leckborg with the applicant. The project we have before you tonight is Phase 5 of the Southern New Hampshire Industrial Park. Phase 5 consists of 44-unit multifamily development located on Newton Tax Map 14, lots 1, 1, and 2. In the construction of a roadway from the end of Phase 2 to Puzzle Lane, most of which is located on Newton Tax Map 14, lot 27-3, and crosses Map 14, lots 1, 1, and lot 2. We're here tonight seeking site plan approval as there are 2 lots in Plastow that are contiguous to lot 27-3 and under the same ownership. These lots are map 63, lot 82, and map 71, lot 19. These lots total just over 10 acres and are zone LDR. The only activity proposed in Plastow is the planting of the vegetative screen on map 71, lot 19. You scroll down to that. The intent of which is to screen the residential lots in Plastow from the proposed roadway. So the proposed project is 44 units Scroll back up here a little bit. It consists of 8 5-plex buildings and 1 4-plex building located on a cul-de-sac and driveway off of what we call the Extension Road. Water is provided via community water system, and our septic is handled by 3 on-site community septic systems. Stormwater is treated, detained, and infiltrated through a combination of gravel wetlands, bioretention basins, and wet ponds. We have completed all the required permitting in Newton. We have obtained the required wetland permits. The following state permits are still pending: the alteration of terrain for Phase 5, the water system for the community water system, the DOT driveway permit, which we're just on the cusp of obtaining, and the septic systems for the 44 units, which we have to have the water system first, approval first before we can get our septic systems. In addition to the plans, we did provide the board with the drainage report and the hydrogeological study. We did receive Mr. Keach's letter, and we have no objection to the suggestions or recommendations in his letter. And with that, take any questions the board may have.
Right. Keish, could you, what were the suggestions? I mean, if you just want to just say them publicly. You suggest.
Because of the grade and contour, similar to when I looked at the Phase 2 application for you approximately 13 months ago, I recommended that they, as a condition of the local approval here, although I suppose it's redundant to Newton's, that a condition of your local approval be receipt of the DES alteration of terrain permit and the DES septic permits, so that, you know, we have assurances that the infrastructure will not create a groundwater issue that could travel to our town, right, from Newton. Mr. Geyer, if you could go back, you have a wonderful drawing there that's an overview. Keep going. Right there. If you could show the board where the 44 units that are the subject of Phase 5 are situated in relation to the Plastow Newton Town corporate boundary.
Absolutely. So to the bottom of the page, you have Route 108. This dash dotted line is the Newton Plastow town line. The 44 units are located on the northern part of the property, and you have the Plastow, the 2 Plastow lots are these 2 lots right here. You can see the call outs for them.
While no development is proposed, there's a provision in the statute, RSA 674-53, entitled Land Affected by Municipal Boundaries, for a land use proposal to be approved for the purposes of that title. It has to be approved by all New Hampshire municipalities who on the subject parcel situated. And even here, those 2 long, slender scraps, they're about 7 acres in total, are situated in Plastow. Even though there's no development here, that's what brings them here, is compliance with that statute. The improvement that is being done for the benefit of Plastow is the implementation of landscape. If you could go back to where you were, Barry, so that you could show, well, yeah, where the roadway that extends from the Phase 2 roadway to Phase 5 creeps within approximately 50 feet of the municipal boundary. So as you can see, Barry, if you could explain what the composition of that buffer is.
Yeah, we have a combination of evergreens and shrubs to have a higher story block of the view, as well as a lower story. So We have maples as well, birches, hydrangea, cedars, red cedars, crab apples, Norway, oh, that's not, excuse me. Wrong page. We have white fir, spruce, white pine, ivory, little silk, lilac tree. Then for the lower story, we have serviceberry and mountain laurel.
And it's to be noted that where that's being located, the distance from the road to the municipal boundary is approximately a little less than 50 feet at its closest point. But the width of the Plastow parcel in that area is probably in excess of 100 feet.
Yeah, we're in this location, we're approximately 205 feet from
To the actual abutting property lines.
to the external, what we would consider the external property line.
To the ownership of others, I guess is the way I'd put it, Richard, right? And so, I mean, I think what they're doing here is excellent for as far as that screening piece. What I was more concerned with, similar to, the sentiment of the board when you sent me the phase 2 application, is I looked at the same series of factors. Stormwater, I guess I put us in the position that the abutters that spoke on the last application were. And then obviously with septic systems to make sure that, and that's the only reason I'm recommending any approval you granted. I notice it's in the draft motion, be subject to receipt, and they would have to do that for Newton anyways. But I just wanted it to be here so that evidence of the receipt of those approvals is on file in this building.
Just a question about the buffering itself. I mean, once those are put in, is there a maintenance plan until, the buffering is established? I mean,
Yeah,
in
I
terms
think
of
our
watering and upkeep.
plans
and things like
indicate that it has to be a minimum of one growing season.
Okay.
They have to be replaced. I mean, of course, when you plant sometimes they don't grow.
Right.
And so they'd have to be replaced.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I'm just going to ask one, and this is just informational only, what's the breakout between like evergreens and deciduous trees? Because you get blockage with year-round with evergreen. You don't necessarily get that with the deciduous.
Right, yeah, I'm looking, and it's mostly evergreens. We got white pines, spruce, and white fir.
Okay, yeah.
And I misspoke. I was speaking about the landscaping around the units when I was talking about some of the other trees, the maples and stuff. But so we have all for basically evergreens, and then we have the understory that blocks as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Lori, did you have some specific concerns about
No.
DES or alteration of terrain?
I think Mr. Keach talked about that.
Okay.
And on the motion, it says all conditions shall be met. So I believe that would cover it.
All right, so is there anyone from the public that would like to say anything? I would just ask that you state your name and your address and speak clearly into the mic so it can be picked up.
Hi, Lynn Jeffries, 12 Ridgewood Road. We have been following this development since pre-pandemic. And I will tell you, when they first started, the first thing they did was they clear cut all the trees. We used to have a really nice buffer so that I didn't even know that there was this possible development. And then they cut down everything. And now I can see, every day, I see trucks going by, and I can't show you my property. I can show you here, because I have the exact same thing. This is my property.
There might be a laser
Where it
pointer.
jags out,
There it is, right there.
And I will tell you, the reason they have that row of trees is because I have been at every damn meeting complaining. My concern is, Coleman has been doing lots of things on Puzzle Lane for many years. And in the process, I have learned that there are projects that he did years ago where the abutters are still waiting for the buffer to be in place.
All right. Can I just ask
Yeah.
a question here? Mr. Keach, this, again, would this be something that, your on-site implementation?
Could. This piece here,
I mean, just
the improvement
putting
is
it-
actually in Newton.
Yeah.
But if a condition of any approval, this board may,
This part is in Plastow.
no, yeah, that piece
Okay.
is, but I mean.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is the buffer,
Yeah, okay.
since that's what we're
Of
talking
course,
about.
yes. We could.
Right, so I mean, is, this buffer as presented, is there anything that sounds deficient?
Well, the only thing I will say is my neighbors next to me, it stops at the end of my property, and they're not protected at all. I would hope that there would be a bond placed to ensure, because I know in Newton, they have a bond specifically for those trees and buffer in Newton. And I believe that there is a 2-year, the Conservation Committee recommended a 2-year to make sure that the trees all survived, because there are wetlands back there, and I appreciate that, but that does affect what they can plant and whether it'll take or not. But we have a very nice neighborhood, and I would prefer not to watch the trucks go by behind my house. And the noise, yes.
We could.
Ridgewood Road?
Well, to that point, could you elaborate?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, the suggestion of the neighbor to require the bond, as long as the improvement is part of the property, right? And, it's pro-offered by the developer and is an improvement on the subject premises. You have the authority here, as you do in any situation, to require surety for that.
Now, would that be something that what would it be looking to replace
We put the value of the plantings. Jeff would put a value on it like he does everything else,
Mhm.
and use your standard bonding package.
Okay. And would this be something then that would be, just in like the surety bonds that are posted, as work is done, they can request it to be reduced and such? How would that work with something like a buffering requirement?
Well, it'd be the installation of the plantings. What we would normally do on a landscape bond is, once it's installed, that we get a call from the contractor that it's installed. Jeff go out and look at it, look at the plant list, make sure that the number of plantings matches what's on the plan, the size, all that wonderful stuff. And then he would provide you with a recommendation for release. What we would normally do is recommend retainage for a year on landscaping to make sure it takes, using Barry's words, right? And we would normally look to retain probably somewhere around 20-25% of the original surety sum. The surety sum itself is probably going to be more dollars for preparation for the plantings than the plantings themselves. Because obviously, if that area was recently cleared and you go out, you're not, it's got to be prepped, right? And so forth, right? So the specifications of what is to be put there, Jones and Beach did a nice job. It's all on the plan, so. It'd be fairly easy to put a value to it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'm just trying to think how we would, if we were to do that, how we would put that as a condition of.
Well, you have a provision in your site plan regulations, so basically per site plan regulations is all you would need to do.
So
Landscape bond per performance guarantee for landscaping, as shown on sheet L2 within the town of Plastow, in accordance with the procedures in the Plastow site plan review regulations. That's all you would need to do. And then your staff would take care of the rest for you.
All right. Would that be something that you would be adverse?
The applicant is more than willing to do that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, how tall are the plantings? Oh, 8 to 9 feet, I see it there. Answered my own question.
Yeah, we actually have quite large ones to start. They're 8 to 9 feet to start, which is a little abnormal for a planting like this, but we wanted to get that going as soon as possible.
Yeah, just make sure they're not saplings, that's all.
My name's Mike Mitchell, 14 Ridgewood Road. Just to add on to what Lynn said, I'm Lynn's neighbor. We have the same issue. We see the same, activity on the roadway now after the area was clear cut. I think about 2 years ago. It really hasn't grown back much. It's still in its early stages of growing back. So I'd like to ask to extend the foliage down below, this barrier that we're planting down behind my lot. I mean, we see, especially in the winter, we're seeing trucks, construction vehicles going back and forth through the area.
Right.
And so I'd be beyond it. It's the plot. You don't see it on this map. You probably have it on C2, sheet C2.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm looking
Are
at
you
here.
lot 7?
See where that jog?
I don't have a pointer. Sorry.
See the jogging line over there? The yellow walked off. Where Lynn's property is, right there. With a lot right next to it. So we look into that corner and we actually hear all the construction vehicles coming through there. We're not even talking about noise. We're talking just about the visual. But there's a lot of noise right now.
About what's the length you'd be looking at, say, if you wanted additional?
Whatever the length is behind the length of the backside of my lot that runs.
Do you have an estimate of roughly how long you think it might be? Estimate?
No, I don't have the drawings for this.
Yeah, let's see.
You have anything like you have that?
I don't know where this is on the map.
If I may, we do have a couple of issues with that. Not that we can't extend a little bit, which you can kind of see that, I don't know, it's really, you can't quite see it on that plan, but we run into a wetland issue where we're not going to plant in the wetlands. We're not going to disturb the wetland. And like I said, you can't see it from that, but we can go down the line, maybe another 5 or 10 feet, but we can't go across this whole property
Because that's when you start running to the red ones above
correct
10 feet.
And you can see how the road, I mean, it's not as easy to see on this plan, but the road veers away from the property line, so you keep obtaining additional separation between the lots in Plastow and the actual road itself.
I had a question. This doesn't have anything to do with the trees or anything, just for my own, so I can kind of visualize where this is. On Phase 5, where that cul-de-sac is, and then there's a stone wall. On the other side of that, is that Newton or is that Plastow? That's Newton? I didn't know how far down that came.
So if you look on the screen, you can see this dashed line is the Newton
Okay,
town line.
yeah. No, I was talking like where the cul-de-sac is on Phase
Over here?
5. Yeah, that
Oh, yeah,
stone
that's all
wall.
Newton,
That's Newton there?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything that you can say, if we can't extend into the wetlands? Extend your barrier up by the roadway.
That's also wetland.
That's wet too.
Yeah, and you can see that. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We extended the plantings down to the wetland. You can see we actually have retaining walls that retain, so we have less impact in the wetlands. So we extended as far as we could, and then that's why you see these plantings over here. We were trying to get the planting as close to the road and still viable as possible, so you actually screen in the road, and you're not looking over the screening at the
Can
road.
you, on that particular map there, can you indicate where his lot would be?
His
Just,
would be, it's off screen, you can kind of see the edge
That's
of it
the-
right
Yeah,
here.
right there is the corner.
And you can see we have wetlands here, and then his little piece of his lot there.
Is the back of your property considered wetlands?
Beyond the wall that's there would be, I would say, with the way it looks throughout the seasons, it's pretty wet, stays wet.
And that goes onto your property?
And it runs into my property.
His property is potentially fairly higher than ours.
Yeah.
He's above us.
He up further, and the further you go up the road to the end of Ridgewood, the road is lower than, but in our area, I am looking, we are level with the road.
With that road.
Yes.
Yes.
And, the road I'm looking at right now is not the end road, it's actually going to be closer to our property.
This plan is approved by Newton.
Yes, but
This
what
is the
I'm
plan.
No, you got that.
Driving on now is further
I'm trying to
away.
work on a solution. so I'm trying to-
The forestry road, the current, existing.
The one that I am looking at, the trucks.
Yeah, the one that I see the trucks on.
All right, well,
It's further out.
The official road would actually be closer.
Well, just a question of perspective, because we're hearing a lot about trucks and stuff and like that. Is this just a result of the ongoing project that you have? So at some point, the traffic that's being observed that's objectionable and such would stop or would end, right?
Well, this is an industrial park.
Okay.
So eventually there will be.
I mean, it's just construction, but then as an industrial park, it'll just sort of settle into industrial type. whatever
That's
business
the
is.
intent.
Yeah.
Right now, they're doing a lot of rock crushing. I don't know if that will stop once they.
I mean, I think, in terms of what we can actually do, if it's happening in Newton, it's, yeah, I mean, what we're considering here is the buffering, the remediation, potential, maybe in, making sure that the buffering is maintained.
Get less.
Yeah,
They haven't actually started any construction.
Right, the businesses aren't running yet.
yeah, I mean, that in turn, whatever's happening in Newton, that's out of our purview. Yeah, because I was thinking if it was construction and stuff and you're watching construction, is there an end point to the construction and before it turns into whatever's going to be day-to-day business? Anything else from anyone else?
No, the only thing I'm wondering, I don't know if you would agree to it or them, but on their property line, say on their property, would you be willing to put a couple trees in there or no?
We don't work on other people's property.
I'm asking the question, right? Because I could see that
That's
question maybe coming up.
exactly.
So I just want to get that off the table.
We would be willing to extend the tree line down until we another 10 or 15 feet until we get too close to the wetlands that we can't impact, south onto the abutters, which I believe would be lot 9.
How about a fence or a barrier?
Like a berm of land?
Yes, something.
That gets involved with other stuff though. You can't.
So we had the landscaping was approved by the Conservation Commission in Newton, and one of the reasons they didn't want a fence because of wildlife moving back and forth. So that's one of the reasons we don't have a fence. So we would prefer to stay with our proposed scenario. We can add some trees down the line, but other than that, we prefer to stick with the plan.
Yeah, the problem is the whole thing's done in Newton, that's.
Yeah, but this.
But the construction's in Boston.
The buffer.
The buffer's in Plastow.
Right, we're talking about the buffer that's in Plastow.
And
And
that's what
the
I'm saying about
buffer,
the
the
fence.
buffer that they're proposing is, the limit, it's running,
Is on Plastow land.
Yes, but it's running up against wetland, so they can extend it another 15 feet.
Plus,
If you want. I know, but, just for the sake of doing what we're supposed to
We
do.
just want all comments to be addressed and in the minutes.
Okay, Lisa
So if you're
Mitchell.
sitting back there, then we can't hear you, and if we don't.
It does,
wanna-
the microphone doesn't catch it. It really doesn't, if you're not speaking directly into it.
Okay, so Lisa Mitchell, and yes, we do want something beyond that 15 feet that would, whether that's a fence or whatever.
That 15 foot,
If
where
we
you're
didn't
talking
use the
about
trees
it.
that were clear cut.
Yeah, we had trees.
We wouldn't be talking about it.
Right.
Right, but in terms of that 15 feet that you're talking about being able to extend,
That's
is
Be a squeeze.
vegetation or fencing?
Yeah, we want to stick with the
You just wanna
vegetation,
stick with
similar to what, I
vegetation?
mean, we'll just, add additional trees such as we have
Yeah.
proposed currently, down until we hit the wetland. And we're not doing any work beyond the wetland line.
Okay.
Our zoning ordinance in Plastow forecloses your ability to do that anyways.
Any other comments?
I'm still standing here for the request for some
Well, I
variance.
know, but if we're precluded from requiring them to do anything within the wetland area, we're kind of running up against that.
We thank you.
No,
Thank you.
there has to be something that can be considered.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. No, I'm just reiterating what was said. It's like we are constrained by zoning with respect to the wetland. So,
James Andrade, 4 Ridgewood Road. So I just want to speak on a couple of points, just to make you all aware. So if we're all looking at this map together, to the left is the end of Ridgewood Road. It's a cul-de-sac, and maybe cut off the lots in Plastow. You might have 1 or 2 cut off of this map. So beyond what you see, there's maybe 1 or 2 more lots, and then there's a dead end. Well, there's a considerable change in elevation from the top of Ridgewood to where Lynn's house is, where that little lot line jog goes. And like Lynn said, she's about level with the existing road. At the top of the hill, we're well above that. So even in personal conversation, when we're talking about the level of noise this week that we all had to live with, we're far less affected by that because we're not at the same level. And the way sound travels, it just doesn't hit us like it hits them further down the road. So that being said, one small point is I have an 18-year-old son who leaves high school at noon and has to get to work at about 1:30 and just has enough time to come home and have lunch. He told me today at the dinner table that one day having lunch out on our deck because it was a particularly nice day, he couldn't even hear his own chewing. And we're at the top of the hill at a greater elevation. He couldn't even hear himself chew. An 18-year-old child grabbed his lunch and went back inside because of the level of noise affected him that bad. So in terms of what we're experiencing now and who knows what we're going to experience in the future with a light commercial development right behind us, I just wanted to speak to the magnitude of what we're dealing with. That being said, what also troubles me a little bit is that we're speaking and voting on things that may not come to fruition. And I want to know if there's any contingencies in place because the DOT has still not signed off on this road even existing. So as far as we know right now, a truck can't even turn onto this development, or a road can't be built legally to allow trucks to turn onto this development. So isn't all this still contingent on whether the DOT signs off on this, on their plans?
That would have to occur.
Okay,
before
So,
they can build anything.
so nothing can be built until, at least we know the development as a whole can be built and can exist with the DOT signing off on it. So that's another thing. It's kind of, being pecked to death, death by 1,000 pecks, because it seems as if for years now, we've been going to meetings to have been voted on buildings being constructed. Well, that's all been adopted. Those phases have been forgotten about. Now we're talking about housing developments. Well, does the DOT standards change for housing versus they do for industrial buildings? I don't exactly know how this angle seems to be changing, but it does seem to be changing. So right now, nobody's proposing buildings, but that's where this development started. Now we're proposing housing. So another huge concern of ours, and I know this is not your territory, but we're voting on things that we shouldn't even be voting on yet. Contingent to this development even coming to existence. So as far as and this is just things I want you to consider. And as far as the noise is concerned, if we ultimately get to this point where, a buffer is going to be built, my question is, the existing forest road, is this new road going to be at the same level, elevation as the existing forest road? Or is that elevation that I'm looking at on that map, is that going to change?
I don't know if I understand the question.
Okay, there's an existing forest.
Specifically, I mean, it's just, again, what we're talking about here, we can't, whatever's happening in Newton is happening in Newton, and we can't impact. What we're specifically can talk about here is the buffering that's happening here.
This is directly related to the buffering, because if the elevation of the road that we're used to living with,
buffering and planting of trees and vegetation.
if the road that we're used to living with, and the new road that is proposed in this map, if those are on the same elevation,
is the new road in Newton or is it in Plastow?
The whole road is in Newton.
All right.
All
So
development, the only thing
in terms
Plastow
of just for informational purposes, just speaking to this discussion, just is the new road, could you speak to the new road?
It's approximately the same elevation as the existing road. I mean, there are ups, it's higher in some places and lower in others, but approximately the same.
Okay.
Is that?
All right. So if what we have told you about the noise that we're currently living with means anything, I don't think vegetation is going to be sufficient in itself. So is there a possibility for a vegetation on top of or alongside, like a land berm, like something that will actually deflect noise? And those can be staggered with holes between them for wildlife, so they don't have to go through like a fence would block wildlife. A land berm, wildlife could climb or go around. But
all right, so just for the sake of extending this question, is there is the vegetative buffer, is that an aesthetic buffer only, or is it for considerations of like sound remediation when that was proposed?
No, let's do both. It's visual as well as sound remediation.
Yeah.
And there's evidence to back that up? I mean, you could put 50 trees up and there's space in between them, sound will go right through it. I don't see how.
But I mean, it's not 50, I mean, approximately how many, just ballpark the trees that we're talking about there? I mean, is that actual?
60 trees.
60 trees over, what's the length of?
Several hundred feet. Yeah, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 600 and 700 feet approximately.
Is there a timeline to this being installed?
During construction, I don't have, before we get certificates of occupancy for the 44 units, we have to have this all installed. There's bonding. The town has asked for bonding as well as Newton has asked for bonding, so.
I have no further questions.
Okay.
It's tough as we have limited jurisdiction.
And we're really only talking about the trees in Plastow.
Right.
Which is approximately 14 trees and 6 shrubs.
And they agreed to go to the wetlands, whatever that is.
Agreed to extend, yes.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Which is probably an additional 2, 3, roughly.
I would concur.
So the, okay, well, one more.
There was, obviously, we as a neighborhood have been talking about this for quite a while. I mean, there's this, quote, 200 feet between the road and the back. There's all this land that maybe they could add more vegetation in that Plastow land that would give us more buffer that they cut down.
Is there, I mean, what is there on the map that the abutter is describing?
As indicated previously, we're approximately 200 feet, the road's approximately 200 feet from the external buffer.
Okay.
The ability to develop any of those areas in Plastow is extremely limited. So we don't anticipate there be any development in those. I know there is emergent vegetation in that area now, which will continue, but we're adding a vegetated buffer to expedite that.
So you are adding a buffer into that area that?
No, what I'm saying is
Okay.
the landscape that you see is the buffer.
Okay, so.
But between the road and the abutting properties, the likelihood of that ever being developed is very small. So it's currently emergent vegetation and will continue to be.
And I think one of the proposed condition we have is that if there's going to be any development that is in Plastow, then you actually have to come.
That would have to come back to the board.
Exactly. I don't, it's.
Or the neighbors that abut me. Right. Okay, they're in worse shape. They have extended backyard. And they won't have any of this. I'm surprised they're not here tonight.
All right. All right. Is there any other additional comments that haven't already been put forward? I think, from the board's perspective, where we could ask maybe that the buffer be extended as far as it can, and then perhaps some sort of surety that's put in place.
Is there an eco-friendly buffer we can put it? I mean, something that, fits the constitution with restrictions. I mean, as we said, a berm, some combination of berm, barrier, or whatever. I mean, just to say, don't see out because I mean, that doesn't fix the problem.
I wouldn't address comments until they come up.
All right. I'm going to ask you, if you're going to make a comment, please come up to the microphone. And in terms of making a comment, that we can address that, so that it's just not running commentary. I think I understand, or the board understands that, that you would want something a little more robust in, let's say, the wetland area, except we're constrained from doing that. Okay, so in that sense that, where I can empathize with you on that, there is no remedy, for that.
Well, I'm asking the experts, you guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There is no remedy with respect to the
What possible
wetland.
solutions are available? I mean, there has to be something we can do.
Not in the wetland area. It's you can't build in it. You can't, you can't go in and like rearrange the wetlands, plant stuff in it and things like that. We're constrained by that. So,
So the guy who clear cut it could go into the wetlands and clear cut everything that was in the wetlands.
no.
Well, it happened.
As long as he didn't touch the ground. I mean, if you're doing it in the winter. Anybody who owns land in the state of New Hampshire can cut their land, period. It's a right of a landowner in the state of New Hampshire. File an intent to cut, and you can cut.
Did he own it?
Apparently, that's what this gentleman did.
Did he own it? No. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Would you be willing to put in any more trees rather than just that one line of trees? Would you be willing to beef that up a little more?
Within reason, I think they would be. I think we've done a very good job of providing that. And like I said, we have almost 200 feet between the external boundary and the road, which will vegetate. It's already vegetating if you go out there. So where does it end? I mean, I think we've done a pretty
Well,
good job of showing a buffer or providing a
The
buffer.
last time, I don't know if you were here, but Mr. McDonough was here, and I asked him a question about, were there any trees cut out there? He told me no. No, there were no trees cut out there. No, he did not clear cut it. There were no trees cut.
Yeah,
So that's why now I'm asking you, would you be willing, you hear their concerns, would you be willing to beef up that area a little more instead of just one row of trees? That was all clear cut. And he told me, no, it wasn't done. No. Well, it was.
Can I speak on the behalf of that?
Mhm.
So it was deemed industrial park 1986. The property's been cut. It was clear cut in 1988. That's when all the big king pines went down. Since after that, in 2006, there was a brush back, just vegetated cutting with a swivel head. 5 years ago, we came in and just treated the areas and stayed out of the buffer. There's a 50 buffer. We left it at 70 feet towards these properties. And we buffed out that. Now that's 5 years ago and it's already up 15 feet. The grow back, what's coming back in it. So this clear cutting, we have not clear cut it as ownership. That ownership was prior to Mr. McDonough owning the property. But it's also been cut prior to that numerous times. The same person that cuts it for us, Mr. Leclerc, have cut it since 1950s. So it's, it's come down, but the big pines went at one time, and that's before we owned it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just trying to say, and we let everything that's 200 feet between the road and what we're giving it, we're letting that just take on this natural course.
Mhm.
And I think in a few years, it grows real fast. I would say this probably up 15 feet, 14, 15 feet, all those trees right now.
So would you be willing to add any more trees?
I would add to that line if if that's close as I can get to the wetline, I'll be good with that.
Okay.
This what we have here was multiple meetings of over years and decisions on how to do this, and
Can you do any kind of a berm?
I don't see how that would help in the situation. That means I'll be cutting trees to put a berm in.
Okay.
It doesn't, like, I know you guys haven't had the opportunity for a site walk or anything on that, but I'm just saying, it's, right now, the best thing we can do is we're gonna put the screen in for Miss Jeffries, because that's really where I could really make her, she's really worked hard with us to get this done, right? And we're here, and I can't, I'm locked by the wetlands. I can't.
But you'll
win.
try to put more in for the other neighbor?
Yeah, we agreed to extend that down.
Okay, okay.
But you're talking, just so context, I mean, you're talking.
2, 3, 2.
Correct.
Yeah, not a lot, it's not a lot. It's three trees, 4 trees, maybe?
Something in
Maybe
that
5,
neighborhood,
I'm just-
yeah.
Well, I guess it would
It's a
help.
smaller number. Yeah, no, I mean, context matters. I mean, and you're really just talking about this section here.
Mhm.
150 feet away.
200.
200.
Well, to the road, right?
200 to the road, yes.
Yeah, I'm just guessing
Yes.
that it's less than 200 to the.
Right.
Yeah, and the issue is coming down, we're constrained by the wetlands at the bottom end here, so.
We never cut anything in the wetland on that area. It's only as far as the machine would reach, years ago, but it was the big trees, they just die in the wetland and they fall down. That's not something we have done. But we'll add a few trees to get a little tighter on the area there that we can do. And I think that's really what we have. We've had site meetings. The public was invited. We had some people from Ridgeview come and put their input in. Well, this is why we're here at this point. This is where we got, because through that input, Steve Brecht was very, very vocal on what he wanted. He was satisfied. I don't know what number he's on there, but he showed up quite a bit, as is Miss Jeffries, but she didn't come to that meeting on site. I think we're trying to be the best neighbors we can. It is an industrial park, and there's going to be some construction, and let us get it done, and then we'll get out, and then it'll settle down.
All right. Does anyone else have any comments from the public? Last call. All right. We close it and then do the.
Yeah, because then we're not going to continue it, right? Unfortunately, there's only so much we can do.
All right. So I'm going to close this public hearing at 8:40. And we have a draft motion, but we want to amend it a little bit here.
Right.
Thank you all.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right.
Can I ask a
So,
question on the bond? We're only talking about the landscape buffer in Plastow.
The work in Plastow.
Yeah,
Yes.
correct. Okay, I just wanted to,
Yeah, that's it.
a relatively small number.
So on our motion, it says all conditions. And the page before it, it mentions the review that was done. So when we say all conditions, will that include the alteration of terrain and DES construction approval for each proposed septic system?
That's
By
her
just saying
recommendation.
all conditions, will that include what you've written?
Well, if you look at the bottom of page 3, there's your draft motion. And you'll notice that based on receipt of my memorandum, your planning staff took away one bullet and added 2. And, that is our recommendation.
Okay.
Receipt of those 2 permits.
Uh-huh.
And then I think the discussion here had expansion of that motion to include an additional condition to extend the buffer line in, what is that, the southeasterly direction, Barry?
Correct.
To the proximate edge of wetland. In kind, right, as same as it's shown here. And then finally would be receipt of surety or performance guarantee consistent with, for the landscape improvements proposed in Plastow, consistent with requirements of the town of Plastow site plan review regulations. Other than that, I think your discussion, I think the motion, the draft motion as it was written with those 2 additions captures tonight's discussion.
So extend buffer line in southeasterly direction to approximately edge of wetland in kind, and then receipt of performance guarantee for landscaping, vegetation buffer and plastow,
Yeah, as shown on sheet 2, perhaps, Richard, or sheet L2.
as shown on sheet L2. All right. All right, so
Yeah, make the motion.
there we go. I move to approve the application for Phase 5 construction of Southern New Hampshire Industrial Park located in Newton, New Hampshire, including a landscape buffer, but no structures on parcels located in Plastow as noted in legal notice for Planning Board Matter 24-06 with the following conditions. The Note 1 of the cover sheet shall be revised to state any further development or subdivision of any part of the land shown in Plastow or any future development or subdivision of any part of the land shown in Plastow or future development or subdivision of land shown in Newton shall require compliance with RSA 674:53, land affected by municipal boundaries. And the revised note shall include on the final approval and recording of the site plan by the Town of Newton, New Hampshire Planning Board. Per the Keach-Nordstrom review, the applicant shall demonstrate receipt of their NHDES alteration of terrain AOT permit. Per the Keach-Nordstrom review, the applicant shall demonstrate receipt of their NHDES construction approval for each proposed septic system. The applicant shall submit evidence of final site plan approval from Newton Planning Board to the Plastow Planning Department. The applicant shall extend the buffer line in the southeasterly direction to approximate edge of the wetland in kind. There will be a receipt of performance guarantee for landscaping, vegetation buffer in Plastow as shown on sheet L2. All right, all conditions shall be met and evidence of final approval of the Newton Planning Board shall be submitted with the exception of the Newton Planning Board signature on the plan prior to the Plastow Planning Board Chair signing the final recording Mylar.
I'm sorry, did you skip the second one? Or was I not paying attention?
The second one, what?
In condition, favorable report from Keach-Nordstrom Associates that there are no drainage issues that will impact Plastow property.
It's already been received.
Okay, it was then?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you all very much.
500. Thank you.
Just a second.
Bill.
They try to throw my voice sometimes. All right. Have a good night.
Good night, good night. All right. I think 15 minutes to get this all done.
Chairman, is there anything else I can help you with? If not, I'll take off.
Thank you very much. It was very helpful.
All right, well, all you got to do is ask.
All right. It's asking,
You guys seem to be doing well. Well, I'm glad to see you all.
Right.
I will see you on, not Juneteenth. What's the other one?
12.
12.
Yeah.
See you then.
All right, thanks.
Very good.
Good to see you.
Have a good night.
Yeah. By the way, the Celtics are up by 8 points.
Who are they? No.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, I write slower than I type. Could I get the exact wording of the additional condition that you added?
It's brutal. It's like, that was like a
Or if
term.
I could just steal your paper while you move on so that we don't.
Well, I think, which one? You said we have a,
You added about the trees.
yeah, we have extend the buffer line in the southeasterly direction to the approximate edge of the wetland.
Why don't you just hand, can I just hand it to him?
Say direction.
That'd be
It's written in my language. so.
Hopefully you can read, it's a foreign language.
Sorry. Oh, wow.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
I think you're stuck in kind in the wrong space. I wasn't going to correct you. You were on a roll.
Feel free to clean that up.
All right, that way you can keep moving.
All right, so we have what? Planning Board Rules and Procedures, a second reading. And looking at this here. So I assume we're just reading what's in red?
Well,
Or,
you should probably read all of C, right?
okay, yeah.
Since Laurie wrote it, shouldn't she?
No,
read it?
no, Richard.
I was going to say, I
Richard
just
can read. He's got his glasses tonight.
take that.
That's right, I forgot about that.
No, it's,
He couldn't see, remember?
it went quickly. I can see, and then it's just you go blind. All right, so I'm just reading what was struck out and then what was changed, right?
Yeah.
So rules and procedures, section 225-3, organization, section C, strike out committee and say commission memberships, adding capital improvement committee and subcommittees. All right, so the board shall make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for no, this is the RPC stuff. What do you mean, section C? All right, so section C, number 4. The planning board at its discretion may create additional subcommittee to work on other board projects such as zoning updates, subdivision regulation updates, site plan review updates, and any other similar projects. Number 5, subcommittees cannot speak for the board unless specifically authorized to do so from the chair. Subcommittees shall conform to all applicable of RSA 91-A, the right to know state law, including the posting of meetings, taking minutes. Subcommittees shall report their findings to the board. All right. I believe that constitutes our second reading, correct? So,
We read it at the last meeting.
all right, so that's been adopted.
So do we have to take a vote on it? Do we have to take a vote on it, Tim?
Yep, there's a motion at the bottom of page 11.
Oh, okay.
I move to adopt the amendments to the Plastow Planning Board's Rule of Procedures as first read at the May 1st, 2024 meeting, and the second read at the May 15th, 2024 meeting, the changes to take effect immediately.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. All right. All right, any old business that we need to address? I was asked that if we're going to adopt some sort of subcommittees or what, we'll probably have something that'll be relatively formal. Just basically what the committees will be, who's going to be the members. And then, as stated, that if those committees then do some work and there's a quorum, that they're going to have to take notes. It would have to be posted if you're going to be doing it. So preferably, in a municipal building of some kind, that's probably the easiest if that's what I'd recommend.
So what if there's just 2?
If it's not a quorum, then, then it's not something that would be required to be publicly noticed, correct?
Or you wouldn't have a meeting.
Right, you wouldn't have a meeting, so. So if it's like something that somebody's doing independent work on, then, it'd be an agenda item that would be report back to the board type thing.
But if you got a subcommittee of 3 members, 2's a quorum.
Right. So it's just whenever you have a quorum and you're going to have a meeting, it'd have to be noticed and minutes taken.
Okay.
And, and just for purposes, I mean, it can be anything that the board would want, but just offhanded, I'm thinking that there should be a standing committee, at least maybe for zoning amendments. And so as these recommendations come in from like other boards, let's say, other individuals that are working in planning and such, contemporaneously, that information would go to our committee, so that there at least be eyes on it, so that it's not something that we have, that if we can work on it immediately, we can work, it can be brought up, we can work on it, and it's not something that's pushed to the end of the year where we're sort of constrained. Basically who, what, when, where, why, when these things show up. So, just maybe a little vetting before it shows up to the whole board. And then maybe even something, generically, speaking for a master plan, that if it's going to be a subcommittee or something, then maybe we meet and just sort of on a rolling basis, dedicate time to, moving from the front part to the back part of, let's say, the master plan, treat it as a living, breathing document that we can, review. So that, if anyone else has any other ideas or something that we want to do, then, use that as a way to kind of work through it outside of our normal scheduled meetings. Anyone else have any old business?
Did we, sorry.
I just wanted to see if everyone had read Tim's comments, and thank you for that, for the housing master plan chapter. The grant does end by the end of fiscal year, so we kind of need to finish that. I'm sorry for my absence last time, I wasn't feeling well. And then I just didn't press send on my email.
The only thing that we did was we struck out the part where he talked about multifamily, what the town has as opposed to the state. They don't exactly say it the same, but they mean the same thing, more than two. So
Okay.
that was one of his comments. So we just
Yeah.
struck that.
I didn't see that email.
Okay.
But that was it. So
That was it.
I'm gonna take care of all of Tim's comments. And then if you have faith in me that I can take these comments and do good on them, then we can have the public hearing soon.
Yes. When do we want to have the public hearing on that?
Our next work session.
What?
Soon. Yep, I can have everything edited by then.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it, yeah.
Get it off our plate.
Definitely.
Because the public hearing on this project is gonna, that's gonna eat up a lot of your time. So if you can knock it off on the 5th.
Yeah.
Put that in the wind column.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Anything else?
Yeah, we just have to make sure we have time to do the legal notice.
What is that time?
I think
I
it's 10
think
days.
it's 10 days.
10 days?
Uh,
You'd have to have that May 25th.
Which gives you 9-10 days.
Yeah. Can you edit all that in?
Yeah, we have so much time.
Okay.
Because this is a longer one.
All right.
Oldest, we were talking about doing a joint meeting with the Conservation Commission on prime wetlands. I'm not saying for next meeting, but that was on the, we were talking about.
We want a long runway, for that. So maybe that's just sort of reiterating that we want a long runway for that.
But the problem is you're going to jam yourself. At
Yeah.
the end. If you want to do anything on that,
Because generally you don't meet right the first week in July, because that's the holiday week.
yeah. I mean, if that's an issue we want to take on, then, because we'll get jammed at the end.
What's the sense of the Concom committee wanting to do something like that when, just
We
sort of
haven't
ballpark?
We didn't, we had a meeting scheduled a couple of weeks ago that was canceled because we didn't have a quorum. So, yeah, I don't know.
There'll be a lot of discussion.
When's your next meeting?
Yeah, June 6th.
All right, so
So
we
that's
want to,
after
so
the
you
first.
can, so after, well, our next meeting is the 25th, right? Is that what we're saying? Right?
Our meeting's the 5th.
The, well,
And then we're gonna meet the 12th.
yeah,
Meeting the 12th, right.
all right. So we want at least a sense of when we can do that by, like, next meeting, right? Or a sense in June.
Maybe we could meet in August or September.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we can do it in August, but let's have an idea and
I would shoot
In
for,
June.
I would shoot for that, at the latest, the first week in August. That's like the latest date I would think. Because you don't want to go any further than that.
so can we firm that up in June, that we're shooting for August? And then strap in for the,
You know, and if we didn't have a lot on the agenda, it's too early to know now. That second, that third week in July, you could always toss it on there, but I don't know what we're gonna have in front of us.
so June, get an idea, shoot for August, or come back in June with like, no, we don't want to do August, but we want to do it. Insert next date.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure I don't know what they want to do about prime wetlands itself. I don't think they were too thrilled about having a joint meeting. So it would be a planning board meeting, and then
they would be in
asking the
attendance?
Conservation Commission to participate.
I think.
So it'll be our meeting and we'll invite them to.
Yeah, much like how we did it this year with the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee.
Yeah.
No, because that'd be great, because I mean, what I think we would want to avoid is that, I think last time it was, we didn't know, we weren't informed as to the full narrative of what,
Well,
At
the
the-
ball's in our court anyways,
Right.
right? The Conservation Committee's already made a decision.
Yeah, but I don't know if the
Well, so, I mean,
size is going to change.
and
Right.
since it did get to the town meeting,
Right.
we're kind of at a point of starting over.
So does that mean so the Conservation Committee has to start from ground zero?
Well, the report can still be used, right?
Well, the Conservation Commission sponsored a public hearing,
Right.
which they had June or December 7th, I think was the date, same as Pearl Harbor, which is why I remember that. But, I mean, so to get the prime wetlands on the ballot again would require another public hearing.
Does that have to be, can that be a public hearing in front of the planning board? Or does
Either
Either or?
planning board and or the Board of Selectmen, I think, are allowed, or Concom are allowed to hold the public hearing. This time around, I guess I would recommend, since there'd be zoning changes, that the planning board do that.
All right.
Because they would have to have a public hearing about the zoning changes anyway.
All right, so I guess the question that I have is just that we're having a public hearing. What does that look like? I mean, is there going to be any narrative around what the prime wetlands is all about? Or are we assuming that has already happened, and then what are we doing?
No, I mean,
What is our public hearing all about?
I think we have all the background information, but in terms of procedure, I think it's like starting over. We have to, assume that we need to do more education and outreach to the public. Have the planning board host information. You don't have to call them public hearings. You can call them public information sessions, which don't require legal notice. My suggestion, which we didn't follow through with, was getting a cable and TV show. Could be rebroadcast.
No, absolutely. The more information you get out to the public, the better ahead
All
of
right.
time.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe I could circle back with you.
So are we going to do like a workshop meeting before we have this public hearing, so we're more familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Are we going to bring the consultant in to speak with us, or is he just going to show up at the public hearing?
I would say the first workshop, we'd schedule in August. I don't think it would be, I don't think we need the Mark West who did the study. I wouldn't ask him to that, I don't think.
Did he go to the public hearing when conservation had it?
He did.
Oh, okay, so we would have him go to our public hearing then. Okay,
I think what we gotta do is try to figure out the timeline, right?
yeah.
So if we're gonna meet the beginning of August, invite Concom in.
And
Then
so
I-
we
then-
get familiar with it.
So we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
My opinion, I think September, you gotta use to get the informational nights out there. That's the cable show, maybe do something at the library. For people to come in, and then public hearing in October.
Right.
That's enough time to get everything done. It's just, I think if we gotta put down goals for dates. If we don't put the goals down for dates, next thing we're gonna be sitting here New Year's Eve.
And in prime wet, we won't have addressed prime wetlands for another year.
Right. So you've gotta put the dates down.
Yeah, no, I think that's wise.
All right, and I'm just going to, just throw it out there that is there any consideration of some sort of tax abatement or anything like that for anybody that has a functional taking of a property that they can't use? I mean, it's just it's sort of yes or no. I mean, no, we're not going to do that.
Well,
You
there's
know.
already a process that has to go through. I mean, there's,
Well, but it's, like I said, if you're saying that somebody can't, because of this type of zoning that's going to be put forward, if somebody can't now use their property, what does that mean?
Yeah, I
So
don't think
we
that would-
need to have that narrative.
But I don't think that would fall under the planning board, something like that.
Yeah, or just.
yeah, we don't, I,
No, we wouldn't say it, but I'm just saying that I'm just imagining if someone comes up here and says, "Are you kidding me? You're,"
Oh, someone will, because
and we're going to be like,
it
"Sorry."
came up last time. You just gotta point them to that room over there.
But there is already a process in place for that.
I don't know what that process is.
and
So
there's already, trust me, when you go on your tax card, and if you have wetlands in your property,
Mhm.
You're not being taxed.
right. Well, so we should be able, but
It's
we
all-
should be able to provide what that narrative
Yeah.
is instead of saying that it's just the process.
Give them an example, because
Okay.
it's there.
All right. All right. Anything else in terms of old business, new business?
What else do we want on the next agenda?
Wrap up the housing chapter.
That would be a nice one.
I'm going to I called the Southern New Hampshire Chamber of Commerce. I would like, they're amenable to coming in sometime, kind of like do a, we've been here a year type thing. Where are we? What they've done, what are their activities, how they can help Plastow businesses and things like that. Just sort of a reintroduction. What they,
Maybe that's next meeting, put them on.
yeah, it's just that we should, have them come in and, I've been asked again that, Pace is out there. Whether or not, maybe Pace wants to come in, we could ask them, come in, talk about what their initiatives are, there might be some overlap. So we could do something like that. And I guess in the back of our mind, Tim, you had spoken about, maybe there's some RPC resources with respect to economic development of some kind, if there was somebody that could come, like a workshop type thing. We can talk about.
Yeah, the REDC.
What's that?
REDC for.
I mean, I'm just.
No, I did the economic development work at RPC.
Okay.
No, I'm gone.
Well, let me put it this way, like the Southern New England Chamber of Commerce, they put something on in April, apparently. All right, which, they had a bunch of speakers. They had 200 people come that were members. They had people come to talk about workforce housing, HR initiatives, and a bunch of other things, small business oriented type stuff. So in some sense, it's kind of a loss that we weren't on board with that. I'd like to have them put out their agenda, like in August or something like that. They have something where in Canopy Lake that all members of the chamber, including municipal, representatives and such, go to Canopy Lake. Where they have the Canopy Lake for between the hours of whatever. Then there's a meet and greet, a mixer, and then there's a dinner. So, that's something that's good for, business and making connections and things like that. So just want to kind of bring, eyes on those type of activities. So, all right.
Do you want to invite them for next meeting?
Yeah, I'd like, or at least put it out there, some dates, just so like, when can you show up, bring your people. I know Wednesdays might be difficult. I don't know, but we should reach out and call them and say.
And Pace also.
And Pace, correct.
So does RPC have anybody available to, say, if we wanted to do the economic development chapter, do they have anybody available to do that?
Yeah.
Do you know what that would cost us, or?
I have no idea off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay, because I thought we discussed that.
Yeah. And
Could you find out?
Yeah.
And then I guess maybe we want to talk about, just so we don't forget, I'm just mentioning it out loud, that we wanted, drawing a blank, reevaluation of.
Impact fees?
Thank you, impact fees. So just in the back of our minds, I know we got something last meeting to look at, but, I think we're in a position we might want to just push out a request for
Are you
proposal.
sure Bruce Mabry's company is still around? Are they out of Maine?
Yes.
Yeah, because I Googled them and stuff, and I wasn't really coming up with anything.
That could be part of who do we send out a request for proposal to?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they could have, if Bruce left, they could have changed the name.
Change the name, maybe that's what happened.
Or someone could have acquired them and
Yeah.
sold them.
Right.
All right.
Just one more thing. Our next meeting, June 5th, that is a day that I'm in the office in Boston, so I might be a little late. I'm just going to leave straight from there, but you never know.
All right. All right. Yeah, held at the mercy of 495.
Yes. But if I'm late, I don't expect over a half hour to leave around 5,
we'll be
before
here.
5,
Whereabouts in Boston you coming from?
near the State House.
Do you think you can make it in a half hour?
I leave at 5, so an hour and a half.
I would probably say.
Yeah, at that time of
2
night.
hours.
Probably an hour and a half.
Hour and a half sounds right, but when you said a half hour, I'm like, you can't do a half hour on a good day.
No. But if I'm late, that's
Very
just a
good.
little bit.
All right. There's nothing else. We're going to close this meeting of the planning board, May 15th at 9:12. Thank you.